All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. Hope everybody had a good week. Hello, George. Can we hear you? Uh-oh, you just went silent. We were talking before the stream. Everything was fine. Mic check. Technically. Wait for it. All right, just keep talking, George, and we'll see if you pop back in. You disappeared.
Meet George Jetson.
Ah, there we are.
Jane, his wife.
Meet
George Jetson. And
you're back. All right. Hello, everybody. I want to talk about. We got a bunch of stuff, but I don't want to forget to talk about yesterday, because I thought yesterday was one of the worst days for the Bitcoin miners in recent history. Now, it's just one day, so, it's not the end of the world, but I want to talk about it because yesterday was, this very rarely happens. It was a bad day. Today was okay. Today was actually okay, and we'll take a look at what happened this week. We'll take a look at what happened year to date. So we got some Bitcoin miners that put some news out. One Bitcoin miner that hasn't put news out in a very long time put some news out, although I can't quite figure out exactly what it is. So we're going to go through that too. We got a bunch of stuff. If everybody could do us a big favor and smash the like button. We are at 17 likes. We're going for 100, then 200. Let's get some people here. Let's talk about what's going on with Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners and the Fed and the market and gold and Ethereum and more. So we got a full plate. What are you thinking, George? You broke up again. Can you
again? Oh my goodness! I love ETFs for gold and silver.
Ah, yes. George bought into gold and silver a few weeks ago, and that has been a good move. Gold hits a new all-time high again today. My question would be, silver's nowhere near its all-time high. It's at its, at or near a multiple year high, but it's nowhere near its all-time high. Is it going to make a run at that? We'll see. Hello from Texas, visiting France. Hello, the White Rabbit. And hello, let's see, we got a bunch of members, so I'll just take a second. Rectember, Sour Melon Gaming, Edmund, Robert. I'm just going down the list for anybody that's left to comment. Chuck. Hello to everybody and any other members that are here. And, of course, any other subscribers and everybody, welcome. So Bitcoin was down a little bit today, but you can see this is the big board over here. There's just as much green near the top of this. So let's get these. And then the top 12 of these from Marathon down to Bit Digital. These are the 12 that we've all kind of agreed that we're following. So all my charts and graphs and everything are those 12. Those are the big 12. The drop off from there, the next one is, 1/5 to 1/20th the size of the rest of the group. So you're going to see just as much green as red here is my point. Nothing went insane today. So, and Bitcoin was down a little bit. So as always, this gold line is where Bitcoin was at the close of the U.S. equity markets yesterday. So from there until right now, we're down 0.73%. And, we're up a little bit off of the lows. And actually, we finished the day. Where'd we finish the day? So if I go to when the market closed, just so we can compare apples to apples, it was this candle right here. Actually, so it's 0.7%. So yeah, so down, 0.75% today. That's a sideways day. That's kind of a nothing to see here type of day. But I want to take a look at what happened this week, because we had, going into the Fed meeting, was the highest uncertainty going into a Fed meeting in, depending on which way you measure it, I'll go the conservative way, in 15 years. So the market was very split. Just prior to the meeting, the CME watch tool, which tracks, what the futures think is going to happen, was at 59% to 41%. So super split. We ended up getting our 50 basis point rate cut. The market didn't have a big reaction. there was some super short-term volatility up and down. That day ended up flat. Yesterday, we had a nice green day in the market, and today we pulled back a little bit. So, we've been waiting for this for 4 years, and the market's reaction, was next to nothing. Sourmelon Gaming, this just jumped out at me, left a comment. None of this is okay, Tom. Miners are performing like donkey poo. Well, I agree. There are two outliers to that. There's two miners that are doing very well. The rest of the group is doing anywhere from mediocre to horrible. So I updated all the charts as of the close of the market today. So we will look through all of those as well and see what happened this week. Some performed well this week. Some underperformed this week. And then, year to date, there's really only, a spoiler alert before we go look at it. We have Core Scientific and TeraWulf doing very well this year, performing like we would expect our Bitcoin miners to perform. The other 10 we're following, not so much. And the real Gary Ginsler, hello, welcome, said RIOT Bitfarms Cleanspark trash. I'm not sure if you're going to get everybody to agree with that statement on here, although their performance this week, none of them was very good. Just trying to read a few comments to see what's what here. Rectember said, I think the miners being shorted continuously. Big money isn't ready for them to move up. What are you thinking, George? I see you smiling.
You can't hear me.
Now huh? I hear you. I hear you now.
I got my 30 days in, so I can start buying again next week for Riot and Marathon and Cleanspark.
Well, it looks like you're going to get to buy in, at or below where he sold. So for those of you who don't know, George took some losses for tax purposes. He had to wait 31 days or whatever it is. And so next week he gets to buy back in. So, while Bitcoin ran up a little bit in that time, the Bitcoin miners did not. So they're still down. Crypto Rich, hi everyone. Go Bills. Hello. We won't get started, but go Bills. Rectember's recommending a poll. Is Wolf overvalued? I'm going to do that poll real quick. It's kind of a biased way to question this, but we'll do it this way. Give me 1 second to type this out.
Mortgage rates as we speak, because they didn't really go down, but they dropped rates, by the way. They're still not down.
I want to take a look at it's a good point, George. And I looked at the Treasury bills, and this was a very strange reaction. The market is extremely skeptical of what's going on right now, and that showed up in a few different ways. And it's why I think 50 was supposed to be, well, depending on who you listen to. Most people for the last 6 months were the bigger the cut, the better we were feeling. Now, as things got close, all of a sudden, some people started to flip flop and say, "Well, a big cut means that the economy's bad, and that's bad." So this was monumental uncertainty, all of which resulted in some very sideways activity, including for the treasuries, the 10-year treasuries, the 30-year treasuries, the 20-year treasuries. Some of those were up the day that we got the rate cut. Now, they had just pulled back in anticipation of that, and the move was not gigantic, but you would expect some movement to the downward, and that kind of means that the market is skeptical that the Fed's going to be able to do what they say they're going to do. And we're going to look at this was a quarterly, so the Fed puts out a dot plot, and you will look at those. So for those of you who don't know what that means, we'll see exactly what that means. They dramatically changed their dot plot. I'm going to look at it quarter over quarter. This is one of the biggest changes I've ever seen from one quarter to the next. So the other takeaway from that is these can change. So, this one doesn't mean this is what's going to happen. We just saw them change big time from one to the next. Okay, so let's do this one real first. Let's see what people think about Wolf, because TeraWulf was actually way up this morning. It pulled back, it went into the red, it ended up green, but you know, TeraWulf has been outperforming in a big way this year, and there was a lot of days where everything was red and TeraWulf was green. And they really haven't had any news in a bit. So, you know, it's not on news. Sometimes we see those outliers because, you know, there was a big press release. Sometimes not. And, you know, and there's a lot of days there's one or two outliers. Today was very split, right? Iron was down 3.66%. That looks at a glance out of the big 12. That was the worst one. And BitDeer was up 4.85 and Bit Digital was up 3.93. So those were nice up days. Actually, Core Scientific was up 3%. So, you know, that's actually the best performer on the year, even a little bit better than Wolf. But Cores and Wolf are running away with, you know, first place at the moment. We've seen that switch in a big way, you know, at different times throughout the year. So, you know, there's still a little, you know, 3 1/3 months left in the year. We'll see where things end up. Sorry, George. I know you said something. You're breaking up worse than ever today.
See if I can find a hardwire. I said I can buy now because it technically isn't buying until Monday, right?
No, don't risk it. You don't want to wait till all of that and then try and sneak it in and not get your.
Oh, okay. There's no freaking whatchamacallit on this laptop.
I'm hearing you now. All of a sudden, I'm hearing everything you're saying. We'll see if that holds
maybe
up.
it's I was too far away or something. That could be it.
That could be. We got 37 likes. If you guys could help us out, we would appreciate it. If you could smash the like button, let's get some people here to talk about this. Be much appreciated. Salmon Gaming said the only thing going to get miners to move is if I sell all mine. Well,
me too. I tried out, you guys.
That's what it feels like, but just that. But remember, that is not true. That's only what it feels like.
Massive news coming for Wolf. Do not sell.
I see some people talking about Wolf news. Well, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Iceman Crypto said he bought 15,000 shares of Marathon today at $15.50. So we do have some people buying. That's going to be our next question. Are we buying today? Were we selling today? Were we doing nothing and today and this week? Iceman, this is the first person I've ever heard say this, said Cleanspark CEO needs to be fired. He is worthless. You know, it's funny how quickly things fall out of favor. Cleanspark was the by far fan favorite, retail favorite for about first 5.5 months of this year. It was the best performing Bitcoin miner, and it wasn't even close. It was performing 50% better than the next closest Bitcoin miner out of all 19, not just the 12. And now, you know, for whatever reason, there's, you know, comments like this and the thought processes like this. I'm looking at CleanSpark. They put out an announcement this week. It went unnoticed. We'll go through that. They continue to add exahash. They mine the second most Bitcoin out of any Bitcoin miner, and it's not even close. So we'll look at that list as well. So they're in a solid second place. Only Marathon mines more than them. And Marathon is 2.5 times the market cap that CleanSpark is. So Edmund is saying
doubling shares. Wow, that's crazy.
Edmund said Seeking Alpha had a positive article on Wolf yesterday. So, you know, maybe that's a part of it, but they just continue to run up. I don't know why they're the it company. Let's do our check here, George, on let's see who owns them. They got institutional adoption. By the way, here's your gold, George, at a new. If I go to the 1 year, you'll see today was another breakout to another new all-time high. If you go to the 5 year, if I go to the all-time, you know, this is by far the all-time high for gold. It peaked, you know, several different times, somewhere just under or around 2,000. We're at 2,600 right now. Like this is the giant breakout people have been waiting for years and years and years. So good stuff for gold. But what I was going to look at is, let's go to TeraWulf and then let's go to holders. Okay, so, I mean, they've got their BlackRock and Vanguard and BlackRock. So those guys are in. State Street's a little further down the list. They're oftentimes number 3. So I don't know what's differentiating them. I will tell you, through all my personal analysis, I have these guys very middle of the pack, and I give them a lot of credit. A year ago, this is a company I was worried about. Their debt to market cap ratio looked like a disaster. They totally fixed that. Their debt is totally gone. So, you know, they've done a lot of good things. I think this is a good company, but I just don't understand why this, you know, is so drastically outperforming its peers. To me, that's something I don't understand. So if we look at the poll, it's very, very split. What do you think of Wolf's stock at this price? Overvalued 41%, that's the winner. Undervalued 36%, and just right 23%. So, you know, a split, a big split on that. So everybody, I think, you know, just kind of that represents just as confused as I am. I'll tell you, super short term, you know, George was asking me, we were talking about which direction we think things are going in, and George can give you his opinion. I remain on the Tuesday members only live stream. I talked about the fact that in this very short term time frames, 1 day, 1 week, this is about as confused as I've been. So I think we're right in the middle of kind of, and I'll go to a chart to show you what I'm talking about. You know, this is a 6-month trend we've been on. This descending wedge. I'm sure you guys have seen this either here. For those of you who follow, we look at this all the time, and you've probably seen something similar to this in nature on a lot of other Bitcoin channels. That we've been up and down inside of this channel for 6 months. So, you know, we're not quite in the middle. We're above the middle, but, you know, we're stuck in a spot where I've been saying, you know, until we break out of this line right here, or conversely, you know, hopefully we don't, or this line, it just feels like we're trading very, very, very sideways. And it's hard to gauge, you know, what does tomorrow bring, or et cetera. I mean, this, you know, I don't even like to make anything out of a 1-day candle. So, you know, this candle is not good, this red candle right here. But, you know, now we're going into the weekend. We'll see what happens. Friday oftentimes is a sell-off. And so it's hard to take away too much from any one thing. And, you know, we're stuck in the middle. We're at about 60 on the daily RSI, but you can see the last time around that we peaked here, that's about as far as we got. So
he's controlling the price of Bitcoin really hard. And can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I think that's what's happening. I think that somebody said a top, and we're not going past it.
Well,
and I think whoever that is, they've got it in this range, and it will not break out.
It could be a lot of people. There definitely does seem to be huge buying pressure at the bottom of this range and huge selling pressure at the top. Now, the last time we didn't get anywhere near the top. There's some lines. If I go to my other chart, there's some resistance lines in the middle, and this is a big one, and we're right at it, which is another reason I'm a little skeptical about what comes next. Let's go to the other one. So this green line, you know, we did pop above this the last time around and then moved right back down under it. So, you know, this was a little bit of a fake out. We got above this, went back below it. You know, we didn't really quite just about test it here. It was resistance here. And so, you know, I don't know. We're right at this, right? This is not a new line. This line's been on here. This goes back to May of this year. So, you know, we didn't close yesterday. We candle wicked above this yesterday and didn't close above it. It looks like we're going to candle wick above this today and not close above it. Although the day's not over, we could have a huge rally. So, you know, with those two things, I don't know. Did we run into resistance again? And if so, you know, and I don't even, this is such a small margin, but I'm just going to draw this out. So if we do, you know, if we kind of do this, if you take that line, which is a lower high, and if we make another one from here, and this is very slight, and this is why I'm kind of throwing TA analysis out the window in the short term. If you take this, you know, and this is not totally, well, actually, if today closes, this is confirmed. This is a higher high on the RSI and a lower high on Bitcoin, which would be a hidden bearish divergence. So the hidden divergences are less strong than the normal ones, and like this is the problem. If you start doing, you know, technical analysis, you can almost find whatever you want. Okay, so I just found that looks bearish in the short term, and you know, you could find 5 other things that look bullish, and that's why I say we're stuck in the middle. There's no real clear, you know, when you're here, when you're right here, when you're oversold on the daily RSI like this, that's a great signal. You know, there's not a lot of confusion as to what's probably coming next here, or, you know, up as you push towards 70 here. But, you know, and this is just one of many pieces of technical analysis. And, you know, we talk about some of these on the channel, but my point of all this is we got so much other background noise that I'm not sure any of that really matters right now. Let's end this poll. It's very split. It's actually tied, overvalued 36%, undervalued 36%. 27 say it's just right. So there you go. We're very split on TeraWulf. I'm not going to say it's overvalued only because I believe there's a lot of room left to the upside for all the Bitcoin miners. But I would say I think it's overvalued versus its peers.
I think the election has more to do with Bitcoin than anybody could possibly imagine.
I got an article on that. Should we go to that? Because, you know, and this is one person's opinion, and it's Tom Lee's opinion. And, you know, he's a big, well-known name. Let me see if I can find this. I'm pretty sure I saved this one.
Hey, talk to him.
So I think it was this one. Okay, Bitcoin bulls believe the price will go up no matter who wins in November. So I'll just read a tiny little bit of this. And again, this is not a political channel, but we got to, you know, when you're investing, you got to look at everything. And politics, you know, we're in a presidential cycle here in the United States. Politics plays a role in investing. So we're going to look at this. This is, you know, so sorry, I don't call this a sidetrack. So crypto bulls are almost always bullish. Okay, blah, 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 blah. The event is the U.S. presidential election. I recently spoke to 2 of the prominent Bitcoin faithful, Tom Lee of Fundstrat, who you guys probably know, and Mike Novogratz of Galaxy Digital, who you guys might know it, at the Future Proof Festival in California. Both see a path to the election as a win-win for Bitcoin. So I just want to go to quickly what Tom Lee said. So they talked about the fact former President Donald Trump has been an outspoken, prominent proponent of crypto. He's pledged to fire Gary Gensler. He is perceived as who is perceived as a crypto foe by the industry. I don't think I have to do a poll on that. Most people in crypto are not big fans of Gary Gensler. It is what it is. He said that the U.S. Treasury would retain any crypto seized from criminals, although he stopped short of saying the government would purchase Bitcoin. He made a big splash by speaking at the conference in July. So then they say Vice President Harris hasn't staked out an official position on crypto, so many of the vocal crypto faithful have thrown their support behind Trump. Okay, but Lee said, so this is from Tom Lee, that some of the Bitcoin's recent gains are linked to odds of a Trump win. On the flip side, quote, I don't think Bitcoin necessarily responds to Harris becoming president. He said, Bitcoin will then focus on a dovish bet because in an easing cycle, this is a big tailwind for risk assets, and that would be bullish for Bitcoin. So I think Tom Lee's saying, you know, that part of the overall equation, the macro things, you know, Harris winning wouldn't negate that. So, you know, he's saying either way, in his opinion, you know, we're going to continue out this bull market regardless of the outcome of this election. Now, I know a conventional wisdom is that one of these candidates is, well, it's not conventional wisdom. One candidate is very outspoken pro Bitcoin, and you can believe that or not, because, a lot of what politicians say, you believe it when you see it. But what do you think, George? Is this worth a poll? Does it matter? Is the election going to matter to Bitcoin?
I think the election matters, but what's going to happen when we start implementing market to market on Bitcoin? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's happening.
No, I'm talking about unrealized capital gains.
Well,
you want to destroy the United States?
That's a different policy issue. That would be, forget Bitcoin.
I know, but it's what do you mean forget Bitcoin? Bitcoin could go through the roof.
Well, yeah, people could look at that as an alternative.
No, but what I'm saying, though, is you'd have to pay an unrealized capital gains, even though you don't sell it.
That you're saying for corporations or
no,
for... Well,
this was for individuals.
So that's a policy that's being talked about, but
right.
It's a very long distance from a talking point to... I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying we're 1,000 miles away from that getting, that's got to get through the House and the Senate and
no, you're correct. Wave of a pen. I'm not saying it wouldn't be challenged.
They can't wave that pen. That's outside of their purview. You should never say never, because we've seen some presidential orders that seem to push the envelope for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to get people mad at me, and because I could say things that would trigger people that were outside of their purview, or however you say it.
Well, I hear you. I know nothing's impossible. I'm just going to ask you generic. Will the U.S. election affect the outcome of Bitcoin?
Yes.
Let's see if people think this is a factor or if this is just not a factor. Let's get back to seeing what Bitcoin.
Question: does the arrest of P. Diddy affect Bitcoin?
I don't think so. Chuck, 1,000 points of light. Stay the course. That goes back to George H.W.
1,000 points of light.
That goes way back for those of you. Well, 92. Crypto Fever Riot is my smallest position, super tiny, but only because I can't bring myself to sell them at $7. The money will most likely be better off selling Riot and buying some more iron. And that's kind of a good internal debate that, a lot of investors have with themselves. You don't want to, if you're in Riot, it's probably going to do a lot better than $7, and you don't want to get out at the lows. By the same token, if you're willing to reinvest and you have another Bitcoin miner that you think is going to outperform that significantly, then, maybe you do bite the bullet, sell at the lows, and switch to another miner. So, and it's not like, Iron, no one's performing worse than Riot. Riot is the worst performing Bitcoin mining stock of the year in 2024 by far out of the Big 12. They're just in dead last. But having said that, Iron's pulled back. Let's go to their chart and take a look. While we're there, this is the DXY, by the way. So the DXY has kind of been our friend lately. We've had a period down here, as low as we've been in a long time. You got to go back to July of 2023 to get to a point lower than this, once in January of 2024. So, this has helped Bitcoin take its recent push to the upside, but its push to the upside, again, to remind everybody, is, right back, still exactly inside of its trading range. So you would have thought, if we would have said, hey, the DXY is going to pull back from, 106 down to 100, I would have told you, oh, boom, Bitcoin new all-time high for sure. But that didn't happen. So, this has been a very, very rough 6+ months now. Even for Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin's doing better than most of the Bitcoin miners. We were going to go look at, since I just sidetracked myself, what were we doing here? Oh, iron. I wanted to take a look at, so from their peak on July 8th, they're down over 50%. So now that's, obviously from their bottom in May of 2024. So this is one that's kind of stuck in the middle. They're up 80%. So, depending on when you bought in, and this was even up from their lows, they were even much lower than that. Even in November of 2023, in February of 2024, they were down in the threes. So, I'm still in a real good spot on my iron position, but I still feel the pain. The portfolio feels the pain. This is down 50% in the last, right, July, August, and now almost September, 2.5 months. So the point is, if you believe in iron and you think they're going to get back to that previous high faster than Riot is, that's a 110% move to the upside if they can just get back to where they were in July. I do think, I'll say for the 100th time, I just feel like most of these Bitcoin miners are going to be stuck until we get out of the top of this range. It just feels like they're going to punish the Bitcoin miners until that time. Even though some of these Bitcoin miners have made monumental improvements, iron's, cost per Bitcoin has gone way down. Their efficiency of their fleet is at a record low. It's by far the lowest of any of the Bitcoin miners that have reported. I got a chart on that somewhere. Okay, so these 6 Bitcoin miners have put in their monthly operational report what their efficiency of their fleet is. So as of August, iron was the lowest out of all of these by far at 18 joules per terahash. By the way, these are all good numbers. These are all significant improvements year over year as to where the joules per terahash was for all of these Bitcoin miners a year ago. So we got 6 that reported, 6 that aren't giving this number. I hope that they all start giving this number and we can compare this. But these are all trending downwards in a good way. And iron since then has put out a press release that they've gotten down to like 16.8 joules per terahash. And they expect to be by the end of the year at 15. That's for their fleet. So, my point is a lot of these companies, they're cash flow positive in a pretty big way, even at this price. But I just think the market doesn't care about cash flow positive. They want to see Bitcoin at 80,000, 100,000, 120,000. And I think that's similar when Bitcoin breaks out of its previous all-time high and starts to have its run up to its new high. That's when the Bitcoin miners historically have made their big, giant moves. And we just haven't seen that. We ran up to our all-time high, early in the cycle, first time ever before the halving. But now we've had this 6-month window here that's kind of putting us back, on track with what has happened in previous cycles. The Bitcoin cycle lines up with some things. One, there's almost a 1-to-1 lineup with the U.S. presidential cycle. So, if you pull a chart, what does Bitcoin do after the day of the election? That's when the parabolic move happens every single time. I don't necessarily think there's causation there. I think that has more to do with, other factors, including, the period of time after the halving. We've had the last time around, it was the same time that, Bitcoin was on its run with quantitative easing, lowering of rates, all those things that we think are going to start to happen now. And unlike those last times, there's also, massive Bitcoin adoption this time around. So I do feel like we're in a better place despite this, 6 months of misery. I'll go back to what George said before this summer started. Remember what you said, George? Oh.
The summer of hell?
The summer of hell. That's what played out.
Yeah.
Now, September hasn't been quite the nightmare that everyone expected, but September's not over. If I go to the monthly, you'll see September's green. Now, like I said, it's not over. And we got a big candle wick down to the bottom of this range. So, you know, the beginning, and this was the first few days of September. It looked like the nightmare of September was going to be real. All of this candle wick was the first few days of September, straight down. But now, you know, on the month, we're now up 6.5%, you know, so it's not, you know, lighting the world on fire, and the month's not over. So we'll see what happens. But it looks like September's not going to be quite the nightmare everyone expected. But you can see from this chart, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the 7th month that we're inside of this trend that we're in. And until we break out, I know this is boring and painful for our portfolios, but it just feels like we're not going to get those parabolic moves for the Bitcoin miners until we get to those other numbers. So for those of you who've given up, you know, maybe you disagree. Maybe you think that it's just not coming at all. Well, let's end this one. Will the U.S. election affect the outcome of Bitcoin? Actually, 68% think yes, that it will affect the outcome of Bitcoin.
You got some smart people, Tom.
They disagree with Tom Lee, who is very bullish on Bitcoin. I understand. Bullish on Bitcoin, is bullish on the small caps. I've been calling that out for a couple of years. I've been wrong on the small caps because they're 3.5 years into going sideways. The first couple of years I got. The last year, I just feel like we're overdue for a breakout. We've started to get a little bit of it. We'll see what happens. So we'll end this poll. If everybody could help us out by please hitting the like button. We are at 58 likes. We're going for 100. It makes a huge difference for the live stream, so it is much appreciated. Edmund's saying 11 months till October. Do you mean 1 month, or are you waiting for next year's?
11 days.
Oh, that's probably it. 11 days. You know, and last time around, October, November, December, that was a huge run for Bitcoin in 2020. So, you know, the halvings lined up pretty similarly. So let's see. Maybe that's going to be the breakout. Maybe that is when we finally get outside of this trading range. So I know a lot of people that follow the charts, you know, kind of always are in the comments saying, relax, everybody. This is pretty similar to what has happened in the past. So I don't disagree with that. I just, and I think there's a lot of reasons to be bullish, but also, you know, 6+ months of, you know, kind of sideways with a downward bias is not fun. So let's look, and in that time, let's look at what happened to the Bitcoin miners. So this is this week over week. You're going to see Bitcoin had a good week. Bitcoin was up 5% from the close of the U.S. equity markets last Friday to the close of the U.S. equity markets this Friday. Bitcoin up 5%. But look at the split with the Bitcoin miners. Bit Digital up 10%. They had some news today that didn't seem to be news, but we'll go through it. They hired a couple of people. Core Scientific and TeraWulf. These are the number 1 and 2 year to date, and it's not even close. So, you know, Bit Digital, for whatever reason, did a little better. But here we go again. Core Scientific and TeraWulf are at the top of this list. Then you have Bitcoin up 5%. And look at these, you know, then you're in the red. Cypher down 6%. CleanSpark down. CleanSpark, Marathon. By the way, just FYI, not financial advice at all, but here's my 5. Ready? These are the 5 that I hold. Riot, 0, and that was actually down, you know, less than 1%. Riot, Iron, Bitfarms, Marathon, CleanSpark. Red, 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 red. So for me, this was not a good week for me. Bitcoin up 5%. All 5 of my miners were in the red. So, you know, I've been, for those of you who are in Core Scientific, for those of you that are in TeraWulf, congratulations, you've had a phenomenal year. I'm going to go to the year to date and I'm not in either one of those. I'm starting to really understand the Core Scientific argument. I see why they're running. I'm still a little confused as to why the massive move on TeraWulf. Not that I'm saying it's a bad company. I think it's a good company. But look at how much better these are performing. Core Scientific's off the charts, up 116% year to date. TeraWulf up 88% year to date, very nearly double. Bitcoin's up 49% year to date. And this is updated through 4 p.m. Eastern time, the close of the U.S. equity markets. So, you've got two that are just destroying the rest of the field. The rest of the iron finally got back into the green, and everything else is red. So, you got two winners. I won't call iron a loser. It's up 5% on the year, and it had a big run before that, but it was up 100% on the year, and and now it's up 5%. So, that's even been tough to be a holder of iron. Marathon, the largest by market cap, down 34%, and Riot down 54%. Like I had said, just in absolute solid, rock solid dead last from a stock performance standpoint. So, and I have held my Riot, and I've added to it several times this year. So that could be, we'll see. So far, that's been, that's my worst performer by a mile. And Marathon, down 34%. That hasn't been so great either. And Bitfarms down 31%. So the 3 worst ones are 3 of my 5. Just FYI, unless you hold these 2, you're probably red year to date. Now, I know a lot of you here have been dollar cost averaging in for years, including the crypto winter. So a lot of you, even with this move this year, might still be in the green on a lot of these. I have some of these that I'm up over 100% on, even though they're, deep in the red this year. Having said that, I am red on Marathon, and I am deep red on Riot. So, and His Honor saying all 3 weekly winners are focused on AI computing rather than Bitcoin mining. Yes, that is true, but there's some other ones. Here's what I would say. I do think that's true. I think the AI thing has helped the stock price. Everybody attaching themselves to AI has been doing, a little better. But if you look at the financial statements, TeraWulf is not even close to one of the leaders in this space in high performance computing, what they're calling AI, high performance computing / AI. There are others doing more than them. Yes, TeraWulf has plans. Iron has big plans. They put out a giant press release this week, more than doubling the amount of machines, the latest and greatest NVIDIA machines. Here, we'll go take a look at that. So, Iron to increase AI cloud services to 10% of earnings, a weird way to phrase that, but they basically more than doubled. They bought 1,080 of the latest generation NVIDIA H200 GPUs. That was almost a $44 million purchase. And, they've already put, 38 or 40 million into this. So, they've got a significant amount of money invested in this. They're looking for, and look at the gross profit on this, according to what they expect. Revenue versus electricity cost, right? 33 million of revenue, they believe is going to generate 32 million of gross profit, just including the electricity cost. That's not depreciation on the machines and all that. So, and their Bitcoin mining, they anticipate, generating $300 million in 2025. So they're starting to be a significant player in here as well. Now they're in 3rd place overall year to date. But I mean, you can see like they put out a press release this week saying they're, dramatically improving their AI part of their business, and they were down 1% on the week. And a lot of this has to do with yesterday. Yesterday was a very rare day. I said earlier I wanted to talk about yesterday, Thursday. The market, the U.S. equity markets were up across the board, a couple of percent, which is a big move to the upside. The S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Dow, the Russell, all had a big move to the upside. Bitcoin had a big move to the upside. On that type of a day, sometimes if one of those goes up and one of those goes down, it can drag the Bitcoin miners down. But that was a day where everything was up and the Bitcoin miners had a bad day. So that's why I say that was a particularly negative day. I don't know what exactly was going on, and there was a big sell-off in the Bitcoin miners, and I'm not exactly sure what happened. That was to me was a very discouraging day yesterday. It's just one day, so CrashSpark is saying it's easy to understand. Do your due diligence on TeraWulf. I mean, I respect you have your opinion, CrashSpark. What I'm saying is I don't know. I don't see anything in TeraWulf that says it's drastically better than all the other Bitcoin mining companies. To me, I don't see that. I do see, and I'll tell you the difference. With Core Scientific, they have a multi-billion and $3-5 billion contract for their high performance computing portion of their business. And, their infrastructure and existing contracts and revenue, dwarf all the other Bitcoin miners put together, including TeraWulf, on the amount of revenue they're getting from their high performance computing. So, that one, if AI is creating a short-term bubble, I get why they're getting that pump. But with TeraWulf, they're not doing anything more. For instance, BitDigital, as a percent of their overall business, BitDigital has a much higher percent of their overall business than TeraWulf does, in high performance computing /AI. And this is not knocking TeraWulf. I have been saying, all year, I do think TeraWulf should be one of the winners in this cycle. So I think it's a good company. I just don't know why it's drastically outperforming its peers. I'll leave it at that. Everybody's got their own opinion on that. And I'll tell you, so far, from an investment standpoint, I'll tell you who's right. The people invested in TeraWulf are right because TeraWulf's up 88%. So, that's the bottom line. Robert Anderson said, yeah, Wolf needs to bring contracts in. As people would say, all hopium until then. So, right. I appreciate that they're setting up infrastructure, but, they're a million miles behind Core Scientific. Now, Core Scientific does have a massive concentration of risk. Most of their revenue is from one gigantic customer. So much of their revenue is from that customer that customer tried to buy Core Scientific with a ludicrous lowball bid that got rejected. And Robert followed that up by saying, I think they will bring in contracts, though. And so do I. I think that, as George has been talking about, we haven't even started getting going on the AI infrastructure. And so these companies that are building AI infrastructure, which I was skeptical on 6 or 8 months ago, I definitely get it a lot more now. I do think that diversifying its real dollars of revenue, which for the companies that want to hodl their Bitcoin, also, makes more sense to diversify. It seems like there's an awful lot of demand on the way. So, I can't argue with any of that. Mark, thanks for being a member, said, I thought I was resilient until I went back to 70% Bitcoin miner allocation last week. The pain is real, could be short-term, could be long-term. Either way, trust yourselves and do your due diligence. So that's the bottom line. If you've done your due diligence and you're not, I don't see any fundamental change in the grand scheme of things, even though we are 6 months sideways and, trading inside of a range. If you look at the big picture at the weekly, since we hit the bottom, we have not had a reversal. So if on the longer time frame, we're in a 20 plus month, almost coming up on November will have marked 2 years since the bottom. And so we will be close to a 2-year bull market. Now, are we having a 6-month pullback inside of that? Yes, but we haven't hit a lower low. We haven't had a trend reversal from a big picture standpoint. So George often asks me, what would make you change your mind or give you pause or scare you? That's what would scare me. If we started to see on a weekly candle a trend reversal where Bitcoin is now hitting lower highs and lower lows, on larger time frames, not this short daily time frame. So that would make me worry. So if we go to, this chart, I do it weekly. I mean, you can see we have a pretty strong grouping here. And this is in the, between $40 and, $44,000. If we were to break below this, and again, to put it in perspective, so this is what I mean about different time frames. There's so many different trends going on. The 1 week trend, the 1 day trend, the one, the 4 hour trend, the 1 hour. It depends on what time frame you're trading in. But if you look at this, we double bottomed back here, like I said, almost 2 years ago. So from this point, you're just going to see, we hit a higher high, and then we've done this once before. If I look at this line, inside of this bull run, we had a 217-day window where Bitcoin just went sideways, right? And you could have said, well, the trend is over. Well, if you did that at that time, you would have missed out on, out of here, from this candle where it took off, Bitcoin ran up 169%. If we go to today, it's up 131%. So, this was 217 days. We're not there yet. So this isn't even the longest consolidation period inside of this bull market. And this bull market, by the way, from the double bottom is up. We're still up over 300%. So that's why I say we haven't seen a trend reversal. If we started to see this, and then, all of a sudden this turned into resistance and this, then obviously that would be disturbing to the point where, maybe this cycle is different and maybe it is over. I don't believe that. So I don't think that's what comes next, but I don't know any better than anybody else does, right? We're all just doing our best educated guessing. So we're getting a pump here, by the way, this 15-minute candle. We're back up to 63,200. So a little pump. Friday stream pump. I don't think that's a real thing for us. All right, so let's go on to the next thing. We did have some Bitcoin miners that had some news this week. Let's get to that. We get to talk about a miner we haven't talked about all year. I'm going to start with that one. Hut 8. So Hut 8 put out a press release yesterday, and I will tell you, I'm going to go through this, and maybe you guys can disagree with me. This leaves me still a little bit confused. So I will tell you what I mean by that. So this was a big announcement. They also put out a new investor package, discussing this. I read through that as well, and I still didn't necessarily get the clarity I was looking for. And so this might be a great thing for all I know, but I'm going to go through it. Hut 8 and Bitmain expand innovation partnership with launch of next generation Bitmain miners. So, the lead here, Hut 8 plans to deploy model in Q2 of 2025. Okay, that sounds like a long time from now, but it's not as far away as it seems. But by the way, that'll be a solid 3+ years in between them buying machines. And oh, by the way, you're going to find out they're not even buying these machines, as far as I can figure out in here. So, the streak continues. But let's get to what they are doing, because they are doing something here. So Hut 8 plans to deploy model in Q2 of 2025 through approximately 15 exahash hosting deployment with potential transition to self-mining through purchase options. So they're going to set these machines up and they're going to host. They're going to use them as a part of their hosting services, right? And this is a bigger and bigger part of what Hut 8 is doing. It's almost, to me, I've said for the last really since last November when this merger of equals happened. You know, they haven't bought a single machine, and it seems like they're focusing on a bit of a different business model. Now, they've kept all their Bitcoin, so their HODL is intact, but it seems like they're moving more towards energy. That's really what they talk about. I think that's how they're presenting themselves. They do give themselves the option to purchase these machines, but right now they're just deploying them to host the machines inside of what looks like a partnership that is not clearly defined. So I'm going to guess, and I don't know if this is true or false, it looks to me like something to the effect that Hut 8 is providing the infrastructure and possibly Bitmain is providing the machines. So I don't know if there's going to be a revenue split. I don't know if it's different than that because they don't talk money or numbers or dollars. They don't say that they spent anything on this. So the U3S21 EXPH will be the first ASIC miner mass commercialized by Bitmain to feature direct liquid to chip cooling within a U form factor. So one of the things that I'm not going to redo this whole entire thing, but it looks to me that, and I think they talk about it here, introducing DLC cooling technology used in high performance computing data centers to a rack ready form factor for Bitcoin mining. The best I can figure out is these Bitcoin miners are going to be rackable in the same infrastructure that the high performance computing machines are rackable in. So engineering, evolution from the shoebox ASIC form factor incompatible with traditional data center rack architecture to the U form factor compatible with high performance compute style architecture that can be deployed at densities up to 180 kilowatts per rack. So right now, if you have a Bitcoin mining data center, that is very different than a high performance computing data center. And there may be a lot of other differences, but it looks like one of the things that they're doing here is creating a machine that's rackable inside of existing, you know, the same infrastructure as you would rack high performance computing machines. So that may be of some value. It allows some flexibility. The design will be leveraged to house the initial 15 exahash deployment at a density of up to 180 kilowatts. And then they talk about the fact that, let's see, the initial agreement comprises 15 exahash and is expected to increase Hut 8's hash rate under management from 18.5 to 33.5. So you can see they are focusing on exahash under management. They are hosting right now. If Hut 8 were to exercise the purchase option for the entirety of the 15 exahash hosting deployment, the company's self-mining hash rate is expected to increase from 5.6 to 20.6. So they do have an option to buy these. I don't know how much that would cost. I didn't see it in this or their investor presentation that they put forward with this. So I'm just not sure what the answer to that is. So this is a big announcement, but I'm not entirely sure how to quantify this and what to make of it. The one thing I will say is I think this is a continuation of what I've been talking about for a long time, is that they're less focused on Bitcoin mining and more focused on the energy infrastructure data center side of the business. I think this fits into that. And we haven't really heard a release like this from Hut 8 in a long time. So, you know, hopefully this is a great thing. I'm not exactly sure what to make of this. So I'm going to ask you guys. So I'll just put these three options and see what you guys think. How do you like Hut 8's press release? So we just went through their press release. What do you think of what they're doing? Is this great for their business? Is it not a big deal? Or, you know, at the end of reading all this, are you unsure as to what the ramifications are on their business? you know, I did want to go through this and talk about this, and maybe they'll talk more about this, give us some more details on exactly how this partnership is set up and, you know, what type of revenue this potentially generates for them. So I'd like to see more of that, and maybe that's coming. And we may get a, you know, this may ultimately result in a press release that says they're buying all these latest and greatest, highly efficient machines for sure. I'll let you guys weigh in on that one. George got cut out in the short term. I'll see if he can get back on the stream or if he just lost service. Give me 20 seconds. All right, just typing. Okay. All right, let's keep going. So first, let's get back to Bitcoin. We had this nice 15-minute candle to get actually, you know, to get right back to, if you remember, the gold line is where Bitcoin was when the U.S. equity markets closed on Thursday. So we just ran all the way back up, basically exactly to where we were yesterday. So, you know, this is typical. We had a run up. It looked like we were on the move. We did hit 64,000, and you know that is. Let's go to the other chart here. You know, we got this spot right here that we're looking to take out. So that's been our big question. Can we take this out? If so, you know, in the short term, this would be, you know, we're looking to create a higher high here, not a lower high. So at the moment, if this is all we get, this will end up being a lower high. So can we break out of this range? And, you know, if I just add a line here, add a short-term line, we had the highest daily candle close. We had some candle wicks, but the highest daily candle close on all these was right here. So that was at around 64,300. So, you know, I feel like if over the weekend or on Monday we can get above this line, sorry, this new yellow line, then I think the next stop is this yellow line at 69,000. And, you know, that corresponds to, you know, if we go back to this, let me get this back on the 1-day time frame. If we go back to this, you know, that gets us back up to this top of the range, which is around at 68,500. So to me, what I'm looking for, and again, you know, for all of this technical analysis, it seems to be out the window the last 6 months. But I do think that it would be a very good sign if we could close a daily candle above this previous high here. We will have set a higher high, and maybe we go retest this and then see what happens from there. Because by retesting this, we're retesting the top of this range that we've been inside of for 6 months. At some point, I believe we will break out of the top side of this range, but there's just no telling. You know, for now, we haven't even retested it. So that's step one. We got to retest it. Step two, we need to break out. And then I think that starts our bull run, you know, still with massive volatility. Remember, you know, the last couple of Bitcoin bull runs, we had wild swings even inside of the bull markets. So far this was our biggest swing in this, what is close to 2 years since we bottomed out. This was down a total of 33% move to the downside over this last 6 months from the top to the bottom. We had, I think, 4 other of these, and they were all between 20 and 23%. So this 33% was the most, but these are very, very typical. So, you know, nothing unusual is going on here, in my opinion. Edmund saying plus 45% from the current Bitcoin price is 91,000. let's see how this poll is going on Hut 8, just to circle back to that. How do you like the Hut 8 press release? Oh, hold on. Let me see if 10 seconds. How do you like the Hut 8 press release? Which, for those of you who just got here, we just went through the Hut 8 press release. They had a big press release for the first time in a long, long time. Before I get to going through that, if you guys could do us a favor, we're at 82 likes. If you could please, if you are just joined us, or if you're here and you have not hit the like button yet, please consider hitting the like button. It does help the stream out a lot in real time. And also, if you are not subscribed and you enjoy Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, that is basically all we talk about here on the channel. So you can consider subscribing as well. And thank you to all of our existing subscribers, and special thanks to all of our members, a lot of which I see in the chat. So how do you like Hut 8's press release? So 19% of you think that press release was great. It was great for business. 44% think not a big deal. And 36% are unsure as to what the ramifications are of that press release. So it seems like you guys are on a similar page that I am. I'm not sure exactly what that told us. It could potentially be good things. I just think we need more information, more to follow. And the big takeaway is, I don't think, the way I read that, and you guys let me know in the comments if you disagree with me, I didn't see anywhere in there where they said they actually bought the machines. I think they're just hosting the machines in their facility, and maybe some kind of revenue sharing plan with Bitmain. I'm not sure. It seemed unclear to me. Admin saying add another 23% for November and Bitcoin could be around 112K. So, hey, I'm with you, Edmund. If Bitcoin can run up to 112K from here, I think everybody here is going to be extremely happy with that result. By the end of November, by the end of December, even if it was January, February, my price target for this bull run is still higher than that, but, we could be 12 months away from that. We could be 15 months away from that based on, the way previous bull markets have gone. So it's hard to say. Robin said, Hut's back to playing their old game. They have debt coming out of their ears. So we got some people in the comments that are not big fans of what Hut is doing. And Robert's asking, is their business currently making any money? They mine so little. So we'll just go to that real quickly. Let's take a look at... So if we look at the mining results from August, so this is everybody's most recent results from the month of August. So you see Hut 8 in August mined 87 Bitcoin. This was one of the bigger companies back in the day. And they're kind of fading away. Bit Digital was always in the smaller group. They've kind of elevated themselves by, having so much high performance computing. Their market cap is very similar to, let's say, a Hive. Actually, I think it's bigger than Hive's. But you can see Hut is now the 11th largest miner of Bitcoin on a monthly basis. And, unless they buy those 15 exahash, I don't see them getting out of 11th place. I think Hut stuck at 11 and Bit Digital stuck at 12, unless one of them comes out with a press release that says they're going to do something different. And this press release from Hut seemed to be more focused around energy and hosting than it was necessarily around adding capacity. So, but to be fair, they did say they have an option to buy that 15 exahash. So if they do, right, it'll already be there. It'll be in place. So if they buy it, theoretically, potentially, that could start hashing for them immediately. So we'll see. But you can see back to, earlier, some people were really getting on CleanSpark. And, to me, CleanSpark has kind of broken away from the pack. You've got two companies here that I just don't think anybody's going to be able to catch up to, certainly in the rest of this year. Marathon at 673 Bitcoin mined in August. That was in first place by a mile. And CleanSpark at 478 was in second place by a mile. There was a giant gap. Third is Core Scientific. They just don't have plans to add the exahash to compete with either of these companies. right? They do have a gigantic AI piece. Their stock is outperforming both of these by a mile, but from a Bitcoin mining standpoint, they're just not even, they're not setting themselves up to compete with these two. Riot's adding a lot of exahash, but let's see them, start to utilize that. Iron has big growth plans. Bitfarms has big growth plans. So these companies have big growth plans in 2024. Then you've kind of got TeraWulf, BitDeer, and Cypher that have some big growth plans in 2025. But, that's getting closer and closer. That used to seem like it was way off in the distant future, but, it's going to be October in 2 weeks. So, that's not as far away as it seems. All right. Welcome back.
I figured I would switch because it didn't seem like you were hearing me.
I know we were getting some, missing some. So welcome back. We're glad to have you back on the stream.
This stream brought to you by CleanSpark. Not only do we have a jet, but we also invest in tomorrow's future.
That's right. I was just going through talking about CleanSpark's, production. And we had some people in the comments section kind of getting pretty harsh on CleanSpark, particularly the CEO. But to me, if you look at, so this is the amount of Bitcoin they mined. If you look at their exahash, they're now targeting 37 exahash by the end of the year. Marathon's targeting 50. So again, Marathon and CleanSpark are going to be in first and second by far. Iron, if they can hold to their plan, and it looks like they're, Iron's been doing what they say they're going to do. So that's something we've always talked about on this channel. And George, I think is one of the reasons you still have your Iron. This is something you bought.
Yep.
You did buy. So
yep. And I'm keeping it.
From an execution standpoint, they've been doing everything they said they were going to do. They said they were going to get to 30 exahash by the end of the year. So I think by the end of this year, you're going to have Marathon, CleanSpark, Riot, and Iron all over at or over 30 exahash. Marathon potentially at 50. They're already at 35. CleanSpark now, with the purchases they've made, should be at 37 at the end of the year. So I do think, like I said, you're going to see these two still by far in first place. If Iron does what they say they're going to do, they could jump to third place because they're so far they have proven to be a more efficient miner as far as the number of Bitcoin they get per exahash than Riot. So, if it trends out that way, they might jump Riot. But Riot and Iron could jump Core Scientific because, again, Core Scientific is using a lot of their infrastructure for their massive, massive AI contracts, which are bringing in a lot of revenue. So I get it, but I think it's, that's what's going on. Bitfarms is looking to get to 21 by the end of the year. So, they should keep improving in the amount, but they're not likely to pass any of these guys between now and the end of the year. So I think this top 6 is locked in. There just may be some flipping around as to what order they're in, but I think the top 2 are locked in this order. The top 6, in my opinion, are locked in for the rest of 2024. We'll see what 2025 brings. If everybody does what they said they're going to do, then they would be pretty much locked in for 2025. But, there's an awful lot to be done between now and then. $93 likes, George.
Well, I like it, Tom.
93 likes. Did you smash the like? We're trying to get to 100.
It's pitiful. 103 years later. Pitiful.
It is.
Have you ever showed the correlation lately of the new moon and the full moon?
No, I have not. But I will say, I've now seen 2 very large crypto channel. I'll call them crypto channels, mainly focusing on Bitcoin, but that talk about cryptocurrency, not really Bitcoin miners, and much, much, much bigger channels that have brought up the cycle of the moon. And both of them kind of put a caveat like, listen, it is what it is, but I'm just showing you, like, there's a correlation here. It's pretty clear.
That guy George might not be as crazy as we think he is.
So this is something George has been talking about for a long time, and I know a lot of you guys joke with him about it, but now I'm seeing a lot of people out there talking about that correlation. And is it going to last forever? I don't know, but and that doesn't mean there's causality. There's just a correlation. So it is what it is.
And I always forget when the full moon's going to be. I always miss it. That's what's worse. Is everybody thinking October is going to be better in the fourth quarter? That's going to be the action.
Let's ask that one. Let's ask that question right now. All right, so let's see where people are at. I didn't even put numbers on this. Are you bullish on Bitcoin in Q4? So we're 11 days away from the beginning of Q4. That's October, November, December 2024. Are we bullish? Are we going to get, that doesn't mean, we're going to go to 150,000, but are we bullish? Are we going to, and I'll further say, to me, that means we're going to break out of this trading range, right? If we don't break out of this trading range, then, I don't consider that bullish. So pretty much basically new all-time high, which is only, just under 73,600-ish. So do we think we're going to get there in the fourth quarter?
We better. Or some heads are going to roll.
I think pretty much everybody, we'll see. My answer is I'm bullish on Bitcoin in the fourth quarter. So I'll give you my answer.
Did you tell anybody, if anybody wants some Bitcoin, I carry some with me and I'm more than happy to sell it.
You're selling your Bitcoin?
No, the coin I got, it says Bitcoin on it.
You got some actual
coin.
Physical Bitcoin? That's good. That's good. That's good. What's the street value of that stuff?
Like 30K. I'll sell it for like 30K. You can double your money immediately. This is a joke, satire.
Yes. Not financial advice. We're not actually selling anything. Pogo said Bitfarms is slow as cold honey. Hut has a great cap in their merch department. Love my Hut hat. All right, well, you're bullish on their hat. How about the company? Edmund said, Iron is also building out a second huge Texas facility. This is really a long-term 3 to 10 year holding. So Edmund is in it for the long haul, regardless of any potential bull or bear markets or crypto winners. And I feel like the companies that are, and this is the companies that are focusing on infrastructure, locking down power agreements, I do think these are longer term plays. Having said that, and this is not financial advice, but I will tell you, even though I think they're longer term plays, I will be taking profits if Bitcoin gets to where I think it's going and on steps along the way. I'm not just going to wait. My price target for this bull run, and it's obviously all these are somewhat arbitrary, but I think we should get to 150. Would I be shocked if we only get to 120? No. Would I be shocked if we get to 200? No. But I will be averaging out of a lot of these the same way I averaged in for years now, and I will hold some. So that's me personally. Last time I feel like I got burned. I got left holding a lot of bags, and I've dollar cost averaged in. Some of those are. I still have some Riot from the last time around, and obviously, that's not going well. Robert Anderson asked, "Is there a Caspa video coming?" I wrote that down last time, Robert. So yes, I will do a Caspa video. we really haven't done any other cryptocurrencies, but I have been spending a lot of my time in that, and that is one that I mentioned, I think maybe on the members only stream. I might have mentioned it on our Friday live stream, but that is one that, and I haven't bought any yet because I still think it's early, but I do think it's probably getting very, very close, from my personal opinion, to maybe start dollar cost averaging into some of these altcoins. The altcoins outperformed Bitcoin this week. So, you know, I don't think that's the beginning of that trend. Go ahead.
Did you see the information on Avalanche?
No. What do you got?
That California put all their vehicle titles online through Avalanche.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So there's a use case right there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been a nice little move or two.
So we got Pogo following up saying, on my Canadian miner stocks, it's been the best one of the three I own, which is Hut, Bitfarms, and Hive. It's up the most in past 3 weeks. So there you go. I mean, I'm in Bitfarms. I'm not in Hive. I've taken a close look at Hive. They have some really big growth plans they're talking about. They also continue to increase their fleet efficiency. If I go, let me go back and see if I can find that. Right, Hive announced in their monthly operational update, they've very quietly, Hive did not have a giant splash of a press release last year, but very quietly, they replaced the vast majority of their fleet in the last 12 to 14 months. So their fleet is now running at 23 joules per terahash, and you can see that's among the best in the business. So I think you're going to see most of the 12 miners that we're following try to get down to these types of numbers, if not lower, over the next year. Probably, you know, lower or a lot lower as these newer machines come out. Right, we've got a bunch of machines that are coming out at 15 joules per terahash. Now we see some coming out at 13 joules per terahash. We have one manufacturer that has said they're going to be even half that a year from now. I will believe that when I see it. And so Hive, you know, they've got their fleet down to 23 joules per terahash, and they're planning on basically, you know, doing a two and a half, I think going from 5.5 exahash to like 13.5 exahash. And you can double check those numbers. I'm just spouting those off the top of my head from having read their monthly operation report. But I think they're targeting that in the next year. And so obviously, you know, that means 2/3 of their machines are going to be brand new. So this efficiency will likely continue to get better and better for Hive. So I don't own Hive. They have by far the smallest market cap out of the companies that we're following. And, you know, maybe there's a lot of room to the upside. I'm not sure. And Pogo saying, Invest Answers has Hive near the top of his miner matrix lately. So that makes sense to me. I haven't seen I've watched him 2 or 3 times go through his monthly thing. I haven't watched that in a while. I've been busy watching other things, but that's interesting to hear, and it makes sense to me. I think they're doing a lot of good things. Just looking at my list because I feel like there was a bunch of things. So a little thing, this is a little thing, but worth bringing up. Another Bitcoin miner adopts MicroStrategy's playbook, and then we're going to talk about MicroStrategy, of buying Bitcoin in the open market. Well, they did more than that. So this is Cathedra. For those of you who are familiar, they are a smaller Bitcoin miner. Out of the 19 I followed, they weren't even on that list because, you know, they were even smaller than that. But they came out in a press release and basically said they're going to be buying Bitcoin from now on. And actually, they're not even going to mine Bitcoin anymore, was the way that I read that press release that they put out. So this is a Bitcoin miner that is, I think they're going to host, and with their revenue, and I think they're also going to try and raise money. Maybe they already have. And they're just going to try to buy Bitcoin on the open market. They think the economics of that for them at their scale is better than mining Bitcoin. And so that will lead me to, so just to look, this is a very small market cap company. It's a $19 million, right? Almost all the companies we look at are anywhere from $1 to $4 billion market cap. But these guys have basically thrown in the towel, not as a company. They're not giving up, but they're not going to mine Bitcoin anymore, is what I believe I read. And they are going to buy Bitcoin from now on. So I just want to go to one other article that directly relates to that. 1 second to find this. Okay, so once again, from JP Morgan, who loves putting out negative stories on Bitcoin, Bitcoin mining profitability remains at all-time lows. As prices fall, hash rates rise. To be fair, this was on Monday. So, Bitcoin had a good week this week. So it's up a little bit, but this says loitering at around 60,000, which it still basically is. So profitability at an all-time low, and that's not necessarily, they say this, and, there may be a series of data they can put together to say this. But the other thing you got to consider is what we just looked at. Some of these companies have dramatically improved their fleet efficiency with newer machines that have much, much higher level of efficiency. Some of these companies have gotten better, specifically to mention one, I think it was Iron, who's, gotten better pricing on their, buying power on power. So, if you're buying at a lower price, if you're hashing more efficiently, then whereas in general, apples to apples, maybe profitability is an all-time low. That's not necessarily true for every single Bitcoin mining company. But those companies that don't have the ability to do what, for all the stock dilution that we talk about, this is how these companies got themselves down to 24 or 23 joules per terahash or 18 joules per terahash. And that's a part of the success equation going forward. So, this is the good with the bad inside of this industry. So, JP Morgan saying profitability at an all-time low. So as we sit here and scratch our heads as to why the Bitcoin miners are struggling, there's news like this coming out there. JP Morgan obviously carries a lot of weight. So when they come out and put an article out like this, and not to mention the fact that, a lot of this is true as the network continues to increase in size, as the difficulty level continues to go up, Bitcoin hasn't made its move to the upside yet. So the economics of this are not where we want them to be right now. So that's a part of the reason these Bitcoin miners are struggling. And that's why I say we got to break out of the top side of that range. Even the difference between Bitcoin 60,000 and Bitcoin 80,000, I think the market is going to view that. I think that, in my opinion, that's going to catapult the Bitcoin miners. And remember, they need to have a big run just to get back to where they were, a month or two ago. So that's step one. I'm expecting, obviously, more than that in the long term.
Tom,
Yes.
why does CleanSpark think they can do well with the companies that they're buying when they were dogs before?
CleanSpark has been buying infrastructure. So I think the answer to that is they're buying the infrastructure and the access to power, but CleanSpark has their own formula, right? They will modify, so they'll spend some money. And this is what they've said. This is not me saying it, that, they have a proprietary way they build their data centers. So they will modify the data centers, and they have already purchased the latest and greatest. And this is the biggest factor. If you have the latest and greatest Bitcoin miner, that's at 15 joules per terahash, a lot of these companies like Cathedra that we just looked at, they didn't have the money to go out and replace their, maybe their S19s or that were, at, whatever, 30 or 35 joules per terahash. Those don't work anymore. Those are not profitable. You can't make money. You pretty much got to turn them off. But if you can buy the infrastructure and, put better machines in, and they've already bought all the machines. So we know one of the things CleanSpark did was they bought all the machines to get to the exahash that they're talking about. What they need to do is finish building out their infrastructure. So that's what's going on, to answer your question. Like, so, you know, whether you believe that that's going to work or not, that's their philosophy. That's their plan. And to me, again, this is a company that is executing. I'm going to go, so CleanSpark acquires 2 additional sites in Mississippi and closes second site in Wyoming. So this is just what George is talking about. So this kind of went unnoticed and untalked about because, you know, in a world where these numbers are so big now, 37 exahash, they did go out. This is going to add 1 exahash to CleanSpark. That used to be a big deal. Like a year and a half ago, that would have been a massive announcement. Now it's like lost in translation. But, you know, the week before they put out this press release, CleanSpark hash rate exceeds 26 exahash. So, you know, they are growing like crazy. This was as of September 12th. As of August 31st, when they put out their monthly operational report, they were at 22.6 exahash. So in just 12 days, they went from 22.6 to 26. By the end of the year, they plan on being at 37. So, you know, it's through these purchases that this is the plan they're executing. And again, I feel like this is a company that does what they say they're going to do. So, you know, if you don't like their plan, then definitely it's not a company you'd want to invest in. But I think, you know, they've made their plan clear and they're executing their plan. Just like, in my opinion, Iron has made their plan clear and they're executing their plan. And they're not the only ones. I'm going to give Edmund his plug.
Interesting.
He says this on every stream: buy and hold Bitcoin. No dilution, expenses, personnel, just pure profit. I love Bitcoin and like XRP, XLM, and yes, even BCH. So that from Edmund. Edmund has been saying for probably, I don't know, 6 months or a year now, just get Bitcoin. Make life easy on yourself.
We have a traffic problem.
Oh, you got traffic situation?
Traffic situation.
Craig?
There's never traffic in Atlanta anymore.
Try not to let people bother you, Craig. Craig said there's too many children in the chat for me. I will watch the video later. Have a great weekend, Georgia Tom. You have a great weekend too, Craig. See you on the Tuesday members only. Thanks for joining us, Craig. Longtime member. What else have I missed? I just want to, we should talk about this because, you know, MicroStrategy continues to make the news. Okay, so if you remember, so this was today. If you remember, just last week, MicroStrategy had a press release that, you know, they had bought $1.2 billion worth of Bitcoin. So that was last week's news. This week, they planned on a $700 million convertible note offering. And we talked about this on the members only stream. All of these end up being much bigger than the number that they announced. The interest is so high in buying this convertible debt from MicroStrategy that they always oversell by far. Well, this ended up being $1 billion, not $700 million. With that, they did 2 things. So they announced before this that $500 million of that was going to go to pay off senior secured notes for senior unsecured notes. So some refinancing that was a good thing. And that was going to leave a couple $100 million to go buy Bitcoin. Well, with this upsized offering, that now left $500 million to go buy Bitcoin. So you can see the company purchased 7,420 Bitcoin between September 13th and the 19th. I imagine that was all on the 19th for an average price of 61,750. The firm upsized this week's convertible note. Okay, so this is just what I was talking about. to 1.01 billion principal amount from the 700 million and used the proceeds for Bitcoin acquisition. So you can see, I think this was like $450 million of Bitcoin, 500 million to pay off some of their debt, and a couple bucks. So $458 million of Bitcoin. So let there be no doubt, MicroStrategy continues to be unbelievably bullish on Bitcoin. So they've raised another $1 billion and went out and bought. They now have 252,220 Bitcoin. This is 10 times the next closest of any publicly traded company in the world of their own Bitcoin. Obviously, there's other companies that hold Bitcoin in custody for their customers, but this is their Bitcoin. And by the way, Marathon has the second largest HODL stack. And if we look at that number, let's just go take a look. So Marathon, and you can see this dwarfs the rest of the Bitcoin miners. Marathon had almost 26,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet at August 31st. By far number one. But you can see Riot, Hut has held, they haven't added to this, but they've held this for a year, almost a year now. They've held at this number, within 5 Bitcoin of this number. Riot's now over 10,000 and Cleanspark's over 7,500. So there's 4 companies that have broken out. These are your HODL companies. We have some in the middle that are HODLing a little, and then we have some that are not HODLing at all. They're just selling their Bitcoin. Most notably, I think, Core sells all their Bitcoin. Iron sells all their Bitcoin. TeraWulf sells all their Bitcoin, or at least they're not reporting any HODL position on their monthly operational report. So that's what's going on there. That's what's going on with MicroStrategy. See what's going on with Bitcoin. So we're hovering around. So all in all, this was not a big day. All in all, it was a mixed bag on the week. What are we thinking? What are you thinking, George?
I'm thinking the first week of October is going to be a big tell of what's going to happen to Bitcoin miners.
But you got a question mark. You're not sure what that's going to be. You just think the first week of October is going to tell the tale.
I think you could see a run for the first few weeks. I don't know. I'm just not sold yet. It really depends on what we close at today, Tom.
Well, to your point, they could do in October what they did to us in September. If you remember, the first 6 days of September looked like, a nightmare. And it looked like September was going to be that disaster that everybody everywhere, and I'm not talking about, the people in this group. I'm talking about everybody everywhere was talked about how September was going to be the nightmare of nightmares. And so far, it really did not play out that way at all. In fact, just to look at a chart, this is the S&P 500. This hit a new all-time high yesterday. So that was your call, George, on last Friday's live stream, is that we would hit a new all-time high this week. So guess what? The S&P 500 hit a new all-time high this week.
Check.
Now, the Qs are not quite back there yet, which is the NASDAQ, but they did have a breakout week, and they're retesting this high, but not quite back to that run-up they had back in July. I don't know. I'm not sure if they'll get back here, but, the S&P 500 got to a new all-time high. Gold's at a new all-time high. We just need Bitcoin to get to its new all-time high. So that's the one we're waiting for. Hello, JJT. Welcome. So I think you're right, George.
Doesn't make any sense. I can't understand why it hasn't taken off. Really, honestly.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah. This week, the ETFs, if we take a quick look at that, we had nice inflow from the ETFs. We had three of the 4 days were green. One was red. But 2 big days. On Tuesday, $186 million of inflows from the ETFs. On Thursday, $158 million of inflows. We don't know what today is going to be. On top of that, Michael Saylor went out and spent $1 billion buying Bitcoin this week. So, you know, you would think there would be, and by the way, we did, you know, if I go back to the chart, Bitcoin was up 5% from the close of the equity markets last Friday to the close of the equity markets this Friday. So through all the chaos, Bitcoin actually did have a good week, but you know, it is not near its all-time high. It's not even to the top of its trading range. So, you know, I guess you're right. We'll see. And maybe they're going to spook us again at the beginning of October, just like they did at the beginning of September. But I do think ultimately, if they do that, you know, right now, the way I feel is that would be a buying opportunity. Robert Anderson, do you think MicroStrategy keeps
if we don't
buying?
get a push,
Go ahead, George.
if we don't get a push before the end of this year, do you change your mind about Bitcoin?
So George is asking, because it broke up a little, but I caught it. He's asking me, if we don't get a push by the end of the year, am I going to change my mind about Bitcoin? And what I would say is, it depends. If we're still stuck in this trading range, I really still won't change. If we're still hitting the tops and the bottoms of this trading range, I don't know how long this can last. We don't know how long they can do this to. So until we've broken out in one direction or the other, I really just view this as totally neutral activity. And, you know, it wasn't until apples to apples, it wasn't until in the previous bull market back in 2020 and 2021, really, you know, it was March of 2021. So the equal of that would be, you know, somewhere plus or minus March of 2025, and then November of 2021, which would be like November of 2025 in this cycle. So if it takes that long, that's what happened last time. There is a little bit of a difference because we got a big run up early. You know, last time this would have been the start of the next run up, but we already got that run up to a new all-time high, you know, 6 months early. So there might be extra sideways activity. So I guess that's what I would say is if we're still chopping up and down inside of this range, I will be increasingly frustrated, but that won't change my mind.
Okay.
But you know, it will be brutal, and it's not going to be good for the Bitcoin miners either. Edmund is saying, Tom, talk about IBIT options approval. So you're giving me news that I didn't read. So if there's options on the actual ETF, that would be the first one. And that's so sorry, Edmund, to be out of the know, but that would be massive. And
pull them up.
And I can tell you, I'll be buying them. I have some IBIT, and you know, I would much rather I mess around. You know, I don't go huge in options, but I use the BitO options because it's really your only one out there right now that has some liquidity in the amount that they have. But you know, if IBIT has options approval,
sure.
I'll try and give me a second. Let's take a look here.
You're gonna wear this. We don't forget you. It's clear. But...
So this is saying they're breaking news. The SEC approved options for the spot ETFs, starting with BlackRock's IBIT. Okay.
Looks just like your neighbors.
Let's see. Cointelegraph. That's a little bigger source. Just in, BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF receives options approval from the SEC. This was posted 46 minutes ago by Cointelegraph. The SEC has officially granted accelerated approval for the listing and trading of options on the iShares Bitcoin Trust IBIT through NASDAQ. So that is, thank you, Edmund. And Edmund saying, Tom, relax, October is coming. So Edmund has confidence in October. I'm optimistic about October. I'm just not going to be shocked if, you know, they keep messing with us. So, but I think you're right, Edmund. I mean, if I was guessing, which is all we can do.
I'm going to spend many thousands of dollars, though, to protect myself in October, by the way.
Well, and with options available on IBIT, see the problem with options on BitO, and there's also options on BitX, but there's no volume. So you don't want to get stuck with options that are illiquid. The premiums are huge, and both of those, BitO and BitX, have huge dividends, which totally turns upside down the entire option process. And I don't mean huge dividends, 6, 7, 8% a year. I mean, you know, 25%, 50%, you know, annualized dividends, sometimes even bigger than that. So, you know, that kind of turns them on their head. So I only trade them short term. This would be a big, big deal. So I'm personally, I would be looking forward to that. I think that's big news. And maybe it'll be, you know, maybe it'll help be a catalyst for Bitcoin as well. And Clive is saying, I have some January 2025 options, hoping for a good run in the next 2 months. So I think we're all, well, let's see, because we got the answer to that question. That's our current poll. Are you bullish on Bitcoin in Q4, which is October through December? 89% are bullish for Q4. So that bodes very well. I'm going to say yes. Georgia, you sound like an undecided. You're waiting to see what happens.
I'm undecided still. I see it being neutral again.
You think October is going to be another sideways inside our trading range?
Yeah.
Well, the group is bullish. Time will tell. September's not the nightmare we thought it was. Of course, it's not over, so I don't want to speak too soon. But so far, it would seem like September's okay. So we'll end this poll. Any other parting thoughts, George? Anything else? Not sure if George can hear. Maybe he just hit a spot. If you can hear me, George, any parting thoughts? He might have froze up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm now have a new college team that I'm following. Oh, Tom, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, I guess I did. You can hear me?
I hear you.
Tom.
Oh, maybe you can't hear me.
I have a new college team I like.
Who is it?
Front. Texas.
Oh, Texas. Okay. You're in Georgia. You got to be a Georgia fan.
All right. I'll see you, Tom. I'm just... Yeah.
All right. That was it for George. And it sounds like he was going through a spot where his phone was breaking up. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for watching. Special thanks, of course, to all the members. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. We'll see the members next Tuesday on the members only stream. Hopefully all you guys will be back and join us next Friday. And hopefully we'll have a nice move in Bitcoin. So, and thank you to Edmund for that breaking news that IBIT has now been approved for options. I really think that's a big deal, and I'm highly likely to buy some of those. So I've been waiting and waiting for that. So that came a lot sooner than I expected, actually. So great news. Not the greatest week for the Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin up 5% this week. So thanks again, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you next week.